Good afternoon. We're bringing you developing news and the stories behind the headlines. This is Storycon. I'm Regina Lay. And here are the stories we're watching this Friday, July 25th. The Supreme Court has declared unconstitutional the articles of impeachment against Vice President Sara Duterte. Ito na nga yung inaantay natin. There were rumors of this even early in the week. But of course, we couldn't go by it without solid proof yet. And here today, we have confirmation that the Supreme Court has already declared unconstitutional the impeachment complaint. So let's bring in today our guests. We've got, as usual, Storycon's resident political pundit / heckler, Ronald Llamas. And of course, Philippine Star Editor-in-Chief, Ami Pamintuan. This is breaking news. This just came in a few minutes before we went to air. Again, the Supreme Court declaring unconstitutional the Vice President's impeachment complaint. Parang...
Wala pa tayong detalye, so we don't know.
Tinan mo yung mukha ni Ronald. Parang not a shred of surprise.
Pero yung main argument dyan, yung one-year prohibition.
Oo, correct.
Hindi siya actually on the merits of the impeachment.
Correct.
So ang magiging ano niyan, alternative for, kung interesado pa rin ang House, is to refile a case.
Next. After 1 year.
After 1 year.
I mean...
Which is will be in January 2026 na, no?
Correct, exactly. So, if they're going by December 2024 as the start of the clock, edi dapat by Jan 2026, tapos na yung one-year bar rule. But again...
Unless maghanap sila uli ng another technicality.
Yan yung suspicion.
Halimbawa, itong one-year ban, may precedent na yan sa Supreme Court eh. So, yung Francisco decision, parang nire-reverse nila.
Kaya nga, hindi ba kabaligtaran ng Francisco decision to?
Yeah, parang binabago sila.
Oo.
Parang kanya judicial legislation. Binago mo yung existing judicial precedent.
Can the Supreme Court do that? I mean, I guess it is the Supreme Court, so they can do anything they want depending on how you interpret the rules at the time. Pero, can you overturn a precedent?
Dapat hindi.
Because it becomes part of the...
Ilan ba yung ano nila? Depende yan sa voting eh. Pwede mong i-appeal dahil Supreme Court, mag-MR. Pero ilan ba yung voting? Hindi pa kasi natin alam yung detalye.
Correct. So as we speak, there is a press conference going on. In-announced to the Supreme Court just this afternoon via the spokesperson, Camille Ting. Again, to recap, although they declared it unconstitutional, they did not decide on the merits of the case. As Ami said, they just... declared it invalid based on the one-year bar rule. Yes. So, tinitingnan pa natin kung who's gonna be the ponente.
Di ba si Marvick Leonen?
Yun yung chismis earlier in the week.
Yun yung balita,
Earlier in the week, hindi pa natin alam if siguradong si Justice Marvick Leonen yung ponente nito.
Talagang hinabol nila before the SONA. Postpone yan last Tuesday, tapos na-postpone uli, tapos hinabol nila ngayong Friday.
What is the significance of that?
Kahit walang pasok.
Oo. Special on-bank session nga to. So on-bank sa lahat to. Everyone showed up.
Well, yung indirect na effect niyan, the Senate, the impeachment court, doesn't have to vote whether to dismiss or not yung impeachment. So, it took away the damn if you do, damn if you don't situation ng Senate. Dahil pag dinismiss nila, magagalit yung mga ibang mga
Either
forces.
way, may magagalit.
Exactly.
Yes.
Kaya nga, para sa kanila, best case scenario ito eh.
To just toss it out.
Na hindi na umabot sa kanila. Paano ang...
Hindi magagalit sa Senate.
Yes.
Yan.
Yes. Kaya,
may magagalit,
wala akong
pero
sinasabi
hindi
wala akong naisip pahiwatig. Ayun lang, nailagay sila sa isang best scenario na hindi na umabot sa kanila.
But in that scenario, the implication is that they're working together. The Supreme Court is supposed to be independent.
Everybody will deny it.
But
unless nakatira ka sa loob ng kuweba o ibang planeta.
Ako na yun.
Baka maniwala ka ron.
Okay. Co-equal independent bodies, right? Senate, executive. Supreme Court,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But
So,
okay.
Iniintay natin ngayon yung reaction ng House.
We-
Kung
In
ano
the
yung
real
next
world.
move nila. They can refile it. And if we're talking about accountability, hindi naman nawala yung mga issue dyan. Tatanungin din natin kung ano ang magiging next move ng executive and kung sino yung susunod na ombudsman kung ipipick up niya where the House left off. Yun ang titingnan natin. DOJ can also initiate kung sakasakali habang wala yung ombudsman. Pero kapag nagkaroon ng bago, siguro baka sa SONA, Ronald, magkaroon ng hint tayo kung sino yung magiging susunod na ombudsman. Importante yun eh. The ombudsman is retiring this weekend eh.
yes. Parang hindi pa sigurado si Secretary Boying Remulla.
Medyo marami-rami, 16.
Sa balita ko.
16 yung nag-apply.
But I mean, you have to question, Ami, no, if there is going to be appetite to push this through. If eto na nga, here we are, all sorts of delay
Sa
tactics have been
impeachment,
thrown.
wala. Basta,
Yeah, exactly.
Di naman, pwede pa naman ituloy yung criminal prosecution. If you actually believe na we need accountability and laws were broken,
Right.
kailangan mong i-pursue yan, di ba?
But
So,
the criminal
pwedeng impeachment, pwedeng criminal.
But criminal is going to be much more difficult, a much more difficult process, right? You're gonna have to prove guilty. You're gonna have to prove guilt beyond reasonable doubt,
Hindi,
Yeah.
at saka
And-
impeachable person yun eh. So,
Yes.
sampa ka lang ng sampa ng kaso, pero hindi siya matatanggal sa
Correct.
posisyon.
And
Well, she can only be removed by impeachment.
correct. And the di ba initially what some of the political operators were saying was that ang habol naman talaga is that she is unable to run for public office
in
again.
2028.
Correct. So, okay. Anyways, let's bring in our first guest now. We're bringing in Attorney Princess Abante, spokesperson of the House of Representatives. Of course, to react first and foremost. Good afternoon, Attorney. If we could just have you react first and foremost to this big breaking news, which is the Supreme Court declared unconstitutional the impeachment complaint against Vice President Duterte.
Good
Hi,
afternoon,
good afternoon,
Attorney.
everyone. Good
Hi,
afternoon.
good
po.
afternoon, Attorney.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Attorney.
Yeah. I just saw the update, no, yung breaking news on the Supreme Court's decision, and while we respect the decision of the Supreme Court, the House maintains that it has done its part in the impeachment proceedings, particularly in the initiation of the impeachment process. We believe that we have performed our duties according to the Constitution, but just the same, we will be waiting for the full decision, and that we will exhaust all means legally to assert the independence of the House of Representatives in this process.
Is this, I'm guessing that you guys did not expect this, Attorney.
We have heard some rumors about it in the last couple of days, but of course, hindi naman kami pwedeng magbigay ng mag-presume ng kahit na ano hangga't walang lumalabas na desisyon ng Korte Suprema. At ngayon nga lumabas na siya, aantayin namin makuha yung buong desisyon para mapag-aralan ng husto kung paano natin masasagot at again para ipaglaban ang independence ng House of Representatives sa prosesong ito ayon sa konstitusyon.
You're indicating na pwede niyong i-challenge yung decision na yan or to appeal. Merong ganong, since you are insisting on the independence of the House when it comes to impeachment, pwede niyo pa ba yung i-appeal, MR or something like that, Attorney?
I will wait po for the discussion po of our legal representations with the Solicitor General of what would be the next legal steps that the House will do on the case. Kasi like I said, hindi pa nga po namin nababasa yung buong kabuuran ng desisyon na balitaan pa lang natin.
And
Yung isa pang option is to refile, attorney. Is that also possible?
Nakalagay
I
naman
know
po
marami
doon.
kayong option ngayon, pero is that one of the options?
Nasa members po ng House of Representatives po yan. Hindi ko po masasagot yan sa ngayon. In the first place, hindi pa nga tayo officially nagko-convene ang
Yes.
20th Congress. So, siguro lahat po yan ay mapag-uusapan sa mga darating na mga araw.
in your
Okay.
in your response to the Supreme Court, so they asked you to respond to 11 questions, no? And the House finally did just a few days ago, but you didn't answer 3 questions, citing the independence of the lower house and of course the separation of powers. Could you talk us through those 3 again and yung rationale for them?
Yung mga sinagot po ng House of Representatives through through the Council, the Solicitor General, yung pagkaklaro na lahat ng ginawa nito ay ayon naman sa rules ng Kongreso, ayon sa Constitution at sa prevailing jurisprudence. Yung tatlong naunang impeachment complaints were received but later on was archived. Following the jurisprudence in Francisco, isa lang ang na-initiate talaga na complaint, which was later on endorsed by 215 members of the House of Representatives. And that was the articles of impeachment that were transmitted before the Senate. Yung sa iba pong mga naging tanong po ng Supreme Court, na-assert po ng House of Representatives na itong mga bagay na ito ay kasama po sa internal workings ng House na napapaloob sa kanilang legislative discretionary power given ng Constitution. At inasahan nga po sana natin na makikita po ng Korte Suprema ang wisdom ng sagot ng House of Representatives in asserting its powers as a co-equal body according to the Constitution.
And there was also a question there about, as you said, when the articles of impeachment were circulated to the members of the House and whether they were accompanied by evidence for each of the articles charged. Bakit po natin ito hindi sinagot?
Again, it is part of the internal workings as nakalagay naman po doon sa sagot ng Solicitor General na kasama na po to dun sa parte na po to ng proseso ng House of Representatives na hindi specific na nakalagay ang requirements naman sa mga rules sa Constitution at pasok naman po siya sa mga legislative discretionary power ng House to conduct. Ang importante, yung pag-initiate ng impeachment process ay ayon po sa Constitution, ayon sa rules at ayon sa prevailing jurisprudence.
So, attorney, practically ni-reverse yung Francisco decision, yung Francisco judicial precedent.
Hindi ko pa po nababasa, sir, ang buong decision, no? Kung magbabasihan natin yung announcement lang kanina parang, pero gusto natin din makita kung ano yung naging mga discussion doon sa naging decision. At hopefully from there we would see how best that the House can respond to this.
In the meantime, habang of course this decision is a little bit unexpected because the Supreme Court got together en banc today for a special session. You guys have heard rumors, kami din, may narinig kami rumors earlier in the week, but nevertheless, this is coming as a bit of a surprise. In the meantime, what has the prosecution panel done? Is it continuing on with its preparations for an impeachment, fully expecting that an impeachment trial will take place?
Yes po. Until we heard about this news today, tuloy-tuloy naman po ang paghahanda ng panel of prosecutors natin. Tuloy-tuloy yung pagprepara ng pagpepresenta ng pieces of evidence kung sakaling matuloy ang impeachment trial.
kung sakaling matuloy, so I guess you are, as you said, looking at all the legal recourse available to you, no? And I apologize that we had to call you before you even read the decision kasi kaka-break lang nga. But in any case, ano kaya yung Congress is already opening. The 20th Congress is already opening on Monday. Has there been any plans or preparations organized for in relation to the impeachment for then?
Sa ngayon po, wala po ako masasagot tungkol dyan. Ang preparation po natin para sa Lunes na unang session ng 20th Congress would be the organization of the House leadership. I would suppose perhaps after all of that, saka magkakaroon ng diskusyon tungkol dito sa impeachment. But in the meantime, we will still have to wait for the decision, yung buong kopya ng decision para mapag-aralan at maintindihan natin kung ano yung nakita ng Supreme Court na kailangan namin sagutin.
Attorney, bago lumabas tong decision na to, was there any plan on the part of the House na mag-meeting in plenary para magbotohan sa plenary na itutuloy nga yung impeachment? Kasi isa yan sa mga question ng Supreme Court, diba? Is the 20th Congress ready and willing to proceed with the impeachment trial? Meron bang gano'n na balak na nakaschedule?
Alam ko po na kasama po yan sa maaring mapag-usapan sa first week ng opening ng session tungkol dun sa pangalawang requirement na binigay ng Senate. Hindi ko po alam tungkol kung may specific schedule talaga na nakalaan para dyan. Again, lahat po yan ay mangyayari pagkatapos ng initial organizational session.
So, Attorney, kaninang umaga, one of your members, si Congressman Sendanya, nag-file ng intervention sa Supreme Court para sabihin na yung final ni Vice President Sara ay yun ang dapat i-dismiss ng Supreme Court dahil nagawa naman ng Kongreso yung lahat within its powers, within the legal framework, dito sa impeachment. So, ang nangyari ay dinisregard ng Supreme Court yung intervention na yun.
Hindi ko po masasagot kung na-disregard kasi po, di ba kanina lang talaga siya na-file ata, no? Kaya sa ngayon po, ang pinaka-inaabangan po namin ay makuha yung actual copy ng decision at mabasa po ito ng buo para alam din po namin sa House of Representatives ano po ang best way na masasagot po namin ito.
We keep coming back to the point that the lower house is, of course, an independent and co-equal branch of government. Does this feel like it's a bit of a judicial overreach to you, if I may ask so bluntly?
Well, alam po natin na kasama sa kapangyarihan naman ng Korte Suprema yung pagtitingin kung merong kalabisan sa pag-exercise ng discretion ng isang government agency or even a co-equal body. But again, para sa House of Representatives, ang ginawa naman nito dito sa proseso ng impeachment proceedings ay ayon sa mga batas, sa saligang batas, sa mga na dati nang desisyonan ng mga kaso ng Supreme Court. Tingin ko na siguro ay may mga bagay na kailangan po kaming malaman from the decision itself of the Supreme Court. Pero kailangan po is makita din po ng Supreme Court sana yung independence ng House tungkol sa pag-initiate ng impeachment proceedings. Ang House of Representatives lang ang binigyan ng kapangyarihan ng saligang batas to initiate this.
Yeah.
And again, we will continue to stand on the premise that the House did its part according to the Constitution, according to its rules, and according to prevailing jurisprudence.
Yeah.
Pero attorney, hindi nyo man naramdaman na may ganitong indication, may ganitong direction yung Supreme Court nung naglabas sila ng order sa inyo, asking kung naunawaan nyo at nabasa nyo yung articles of impeachment. Parang doon pa lang malinaw na yung indication na papunta dito.
Well, mahirap pong magbigay ng mga presumptions, especially on my part. There are so many members of the House of Representatives, and I do not want to speak on behalf of all of them when they may have individual opinions on this matter. No, ang importante po sa amin ay ginampanan po ng House of Representatives ang kanyang tungkulin sa pag-initiate ng impeachment proceedings. Sinagot namin ang mga tugon ng Senado, ang tugon ng Korte Suprema tungkol sa naging role ng House. At ngayon po, sa desisyon po ng Korte Suprema ngayon, ay gusto namin pong makita muna ang buong desisyon at para malaman din po namin how else can we defend the independence of the House of Representatives in this process.
Okay. I guess...
Pero, attorney, wala na kayong ibang recourse dito kung hindi tanggapin, di ba? Magpa-file pa ba kayo ng motion for reconsideration? Because the Supreme Court is the Supreme Court.
Hindi ko pa po masasagot Yes, hindi ko pa po masasagot kung ano po ang magiging legal move na next na gagawin. I think that would have to be after we have received the copy of the decision and House leadership would discuss with its counsel, the Solicitor General.
Yeah. Okay. We'll let you go. Pasensya na if we're pressing so much. I understand you haven't read the decision, so it'll take some time before you guys can come together and decide what the next steps will be, and we'll call you again at that time. Hopefully, you'll be able to come back on the show and explain more. Thank you so much for your time today, Attorney Princess Abante, House spokesperson for the impeachment process.
Thank you, Attorney.
So there is a question here about whether, so as she was saying, di ba, House has sole authority to initiate an impeachment. The Senate has the sole authority to try an impeachment, and the Supreme Court really should only step in when there's been a grave abuse of power.
Tawag nila justiciable case.
Yes. So the question there is, where is the grave abuse of power here, do you think?
Well, ang before this decision, parang lumalabas, may dalawang possible technicality silang gamitin. Yung isa, one year ban. No? Na ang problema ay meron namang Francisco president. No? Ikalawa, yung 10 days na limit, no? Na malinaw naman 10 session days. So, nung nabalitaan ito,
explain mo sa viewers ano yung 10 days.
10 days na para ito ay iakyat sa Senado. Pero sa rules mismo ay nakalagay 10 session days. Hindi ibig sabihin na bawat araw. Kung yung session day, yung kung saan nagko-convene yung Kongreso. So,
which is 4 days a week lang actually.
Yes, kaya within that framework ay
pasok pa rin sila.
Oo. Kaya ang ina-anticipate ay yung ba ang gagamitin o itong 1-year ban?
Yeah.
Ang problema dito sa 1-year ban ay merong president. No? Kaya in a way, kung yun talaga yung lalabas sa decision na ito, nire-reverse nila yung president na yun. No? Kaya in a way ay nag-clutch at straws yung Supreme Court para maglabas ng ganitong klaseng position.
And you're right, the big question now is what other recourse is there? Supreme Court being the highest court of the land, right?
Magre-refile.
But
Ronald, remember nung January, nung simula nung nag-umpisa yung process na yan, ikaw lagi ka nangungulat, di ba? Sabi mo, bakit ang bagal-bagal na itong House, ang tagal-tagal, baka maka-technicality nga. Exactly what's happening now, hindi ba? Yan ang sinasabi mo eh. Bakit ang tagal-tagal, baka ma-question yan, hindi ba? Precisely over these issues eh.
Okay.
Kaya well, we all have to wait for the Supreme Court ruling kung paano hihimayin yan. Kasi inaksyonan din yan because ang ginawang issue is it's a constitutional issue, kaya umaksyon din sila sa kayo na grave abuse. You know, yung Supreme Court natin has vast powers under our Constitution.
But again,
at sabi nila, pag sinasabihan sila na may overreach, sabi nila, tinanong ko na yan sa mga justices, several justices, different administrations. Sabi nila, pag hindi naman namin kinary out yung duty namin under the Constitution, baka kami ma-impeach. Yun ang sinasabi nila. Kapag kinikriticize sila nun sa overreach, sabi nila, nandun kasi sa Constitution na kailangan namin umaksyon dito.
Parang yung
Kaya ganyan yan.
parang yung binuhusan nila ng malamig na tubig yung magi-impeach sa kanila eh.
Yan na nga. Yan ang problema dyan because they are impeachable officials. Paano kapag Supreme Court Justice yung ini-impeach?
But you know, the Supreme Court also recognizes that the impeachment process is a political process, right? And yung tendency naman talaga nila and their natural inclination is to steer clear of these political process. Malinaw naman yung Constitution.
Kaya nga amin tinatanong ko si Attorney Abante kanina kung indication ba yung nilabas ng Supreme Court. Dahil maraming kwan doon maraming indication doon na papunta rito
Okay.
Yung paglabag doon sa presumption of regularity, yung paglabag doon sa political question theory, yung paglabag doon sa co-equal branches of government. Makikita mo na ron na papunta rito. At napag-usapan na natin yan before.
Okay, let's bring in our second guest. We've got on the line Tindig Pilipinas co-convener Kiko Aquino-Dee. Sir, good afternoon. Welcome to Storycon.
Afternoon na lang po siguro, hindi na ata good yung kalagayan natin.
Nako, hindi na, I'm not going to comment on that, but please go ahead, your reaction please,
to
the big breaking news of this afternoon, which is, again, the Supreme Court declaring unconstitutional the impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte.
Well, siguro nakakadismaya po, no? So, I think I was part of the group that filed an impeachment complaint in December of last year, and kagaya ng pinag-usapan niyo nga po, ang sa pananaw ko po yung as a citizen, ginawa ko po ang lahat ng nasa loob ng kapangyarihan ko, ginawa ko lahat ng duties ko to hold our public officials accountable. Ginamit po natin yung power, yung privilege na sa Constitution to initiate an impeachment complaint. And ayun po, parang sa pananaw ko po ngayon, again, kailangan talaga mabasa yung mismong magiging decision ng Supreme Court, pero just the feeling po is lahat ng government institutions po natin drag their feet, no? Nabanggit kanina yung ginawa ng House of Representatives, lalong nag-drag their feet yung Senado na for 4 months kahit na walang action yung Supreme Court telling them to do anything, parang for whatever reason hindi nila ginawa forthwith yung impeachment trial. And then ngayon yung Supreme Court, wala ring parang napaka-puzzling, confusing po yung decision po nila. So definitely dismayado, pero at the same time, kung ano man po yung mangyayari, tuloy pa rin yung laban. No? So ang ginigiit po naming mga complainants, grave yung mga accusations against Vice President Sara Duterte. Pag-aaralan pa rin po namin kung ano pa yung pwedeng recourse. But if the only option nga po is to refile at the end of the year, then definitely we'll be looking at that as well.
Mr. D, you're talking about accountability for grave offenses, no? Are you also considering criminal indictments kung sakasakali lang?
Again, kailangan ko pong pag-aralan yung jurisprudence, yung legalities po, no? Kasi dahil nga impeachable official si Vice President Duterte, I'm not sure kung available po yung option for other cases, pero kung yun, if that's possible, then we would support it. I'm aware po that there's already a DOJ investigation doon po sa grave threats niya. And then I believe the Ombudsman has also taken notice of yung corruption allegations naman, although there are political considerations there then given the past track record of the Ombudsman. Pero yun po, I think there will be time to plan next steps, and definitely that will be sooner than later. I just came from a meeting right before the decision fell, and I'm sure I'm gonna be in a lot of meetings in the next few days po. Pero ayun po, for now, I think yung talagang dominant lang sa pinag-isipan ko is bakit yung mamamayan ay hindi nagkulang dito. Siguro yun po yung pananaw ko. Bakit yung gobyerno, yung mga public officials natin na sila yung may mas mabigat na tungkulin na ipagtanggol yung pananagutan or igiit yung pananagutan sa ating saligang batas, bakit tila sila parating nagkukulang in this case and in many other cases in the past.
Sir, maybe we can take a step back and explain to the viewers. Of course, there's also some people saying na, bakit kayo nagmamadali to impeach her, right? We're just, there's a lot of narratives online din of from the other side saying pardon the word, at that i-impeach siya, and so on and so forth. Maybe we can take a step back and explain to the viewers, ano yung implication nito in the way the Constitution is read, in the way these three co-equal branches of government interact and carry out their duties, and in the way that we expect the government to act. Now that parang they kind of broke precedents here.
Siguro, I'm not sure po if I can tackle all of those considerations nga po kasi kakalabas nga yung decision and we're still appreciating it both, I think, intellectually and emotionally po. Pero siguro why do we feel it's urgent to impeach the Vice President? Kagaya ng pinapakita niyo po ng footage ngayon, no? So we were all there nung nag-press con siya noong November na nagbaba siya ng grave threats. And ako, I'll be honest, no? Wala akong pagmamahal kay President Marcos. And in fact, when she said those things at first, medyo natuwa pa ako. Alam mo yun, buy one, take one. Ayoko naman si VP Sara. Ayoko si Bongbong Marcos. So kung may mangyari kay VP Sara, we also get Bongbong Marcos funny. But as a Filipino citizen, I had to stop and think, what kind of a country has a vice president that makes grave threats like this? What kind of country has a vice president or any kind of public official that brags about hiring an assassin? Sobrang effed up po yun, sorry for the language. And ano po, in a way, the world agreed po eh. Kasi ako po, nanonood po ako ng maraming medyo politics junkie po ako, no? So nakikinig ko sa mga podcasts ng local tsaka global politics po. What was intriguing to me was, even nung inarrest si President Duterte ng ICC, medyo din tayo masyadong pinansin ng mundo nung nangyari yun. Napansin talaga tayo nung nagwala si VP Sara. So ganun kalala. Kasi gets naman ng mga tao, kahit sinong tao, na hindi pwedeng mag-hire ng assassin publicly against any person, no? Even if it's a person I don't like, no? So ako on that very basis, naging malinaw sa akin na hindi karapat-dapat na maging Vice President or to have any position of power si Vice President Sara Duterte. No? So kaya siguro naging napaka-urgent yung pag-file natin. That press con happened in, I believe it was November 23. We filed a week later po. No? And then siguro in terms of bakit ngayong na simula na ngayong impeachment proceedings, bakit kailangan mangyari siya agad? Yun po yung nakasulat sa Ligang Batas. And even President Escudero knows what it means. Nung issue sa LTO, yun din yung ginamit niyang term, di ba? Baka kailangan nating i-check sa LTO kung sinole niya talaga yung mga plaka na yun if he doesn't actually know what it means, no? So, ako parang, yun, in terms of why we filed, yun, very grave yung, at least for me, very clear inciting incident yung nangyari nung Nobyembre, and why do we continue to call for the impeachment proceedings to proceed? Kasi yun po yung nakasulat, no? So again, I am siguro not looking forward is the word, no? Pero we will be waiting for the Supreme Court decision to be released. We'll study where baka maybe we made mistakes in interpretation. We'll look at that and try to improve our understanding. Pero sa ngayon very shocking, puzzling, confusing yung nangyari.
Is it your belief that the Senate unduly delayed the impeachment trial?
Yes, currently po. Kasi nga, it says in the Constitution forthwith. No? And while hindi naman siguro, I mean, it's not realistic to expect na the moment na nagkaroon ng 1/3 vote sa House of Representatives, agad-agad, right that moment, magsisimula yung trial. No? Pero ano yung nangyari 4 months before anything happened? No? And for reasons that were never made quite clear noon, alam naman natin na noong nangyari nga po yung ICC arrest ni President Duterte, nagkaroon pa rin po ng Senate hearing. So hindi naman ibig sabihin na kapag end of session ay wala nang pwedeng gawin yung Senado. Kung gugustuhin nila, pwede silang kumilos. So bakit hindi sila kumilos dito sa impeachment na which is such an important part of the Constitution that there is an article specifically devoted to accountability for public officers.
So tingin mo,
Parang
Prof.
ako yung tinuturuan ni VP Sara ngayon po, medyo na-stress po ako.
So tingin mo, Prof. Kiko, walang kinalaman dito yung 12 sa 15 justices ay the Duterte appointees?
Particularly po, I don't want to impugn anything to our Supreme Court justices po. Again, gusto ko po munang pag-aralan yung reasons na binigay nila for declaring the decision unconstitutional. Meaning ko po, that's in the back of my mind, no? Pero yun, appointing doesn't necessarily mean forever loyal, parang forever loyal ka sa nag-appoint sa'yo. But definitely it's a consideration po. Pero ayun, I don't want to speak out of place, but definitely just on the face of it, no, without reading anything yet, very puzzling po yung decision. And it's hard to sa pagkakaintindi ko po sa 1987 Constitution, and siguro people will forgive me for having maybe a more emotional attachment to it than most dahil it's the Constitution associated with my grandmother. Yung idea nun is dapat mas madaling i-hold accountable yung public officials natin kasi we know what it's like to have a one-man ruler na completely unaccountable, no? So napaka-puzzling yung ganitong decision that seems to make it harder to bring our public officials to account, no? So again, hindi po ako abogado and hindi po ako talagang eksperto sa ganitong mga usapin. Ordinaryong mamamayan na may mga kilalang kamag-anak din po ako siguro, pero just from that standpoint, dismayado po talaga yung feeling ko po.
Ang main defender kasi ng ating Constitution is the Supreme Court. Kung may mga desisyon na katulad nito, di ba ina-abandon nila yung main function na yun?
Again po, I definitely, I think naniniwala, mahalaga po yung reason giving. So I don't want to impute kung ano man yung legal reasoning ng Supreme Court just based on the headline, no? So gusto ko po talagang to the limits of my capability, gusto kong pag-aralan yung decision. Pero again, it is on the surface of it is suspicious na may ganitong decision na kagaya ng nabanggit niyo kanina, Sir Ronald, that seems to break precedent, no? And it's also strange, or it's also it doesn't help siguro in terms of for people like me, it doesn't help nga na aning nabanggit niyo po, 12 out of 15 ay Duterte appointees. So, factor din po yun sa akin. Am I going to say that categorically inabandon ng Supreme Court yung duties nila? I think it is maybe, ayun po, I can't say that without reading the full decision. No?
Okay.
Baka maybe there's reasoning there that can convince me. I'm open to having my mind changed po. Pero sa ngayon, it's puzzling. I agree, it seems to break precedent. It sends a strange message na parang sobrang kailangan dumaan sa butas ng karayom para makakamit ng justisya, para mapanagot yung mga high officials natin na hindi yun talaga ang diwa ng 1987 Constitution. But yun po, whether the motives of the institution or of the individual justices, I don't think I can comment on that.
Okay, fair enough. We will give you time to read and digest the Supreme Court decision, and we'll circle back and call you again, Professor D.
Tomorrow.
So you can tomorrow, Saturday. but when you have time, and also maybe next week, kasi of course Monday the 20th Congress comes in already, and
SONA.
we can talk a little bit more about the alignments in the Senate. And for now, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for your time and insights. Tindig Pilipinas co-convener Kiko Aquino-Dee.
Salamat, Prof.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Yung timing nga naman talaga, no? I was just reminded, SONA na on Monday. So, does this feel rushed? The fact na nilabas yung decision on a Friday afternoon at a time when most government
At wala pa.
agencies don't have work pa.
Walang pasok.
Oh, kaya nga. So,
Walang pasok ang government.
kaya nga. So
Wala.
is this really extraordinary,
Although
no?
yung mga ganyang decision, ano na yan pirmahan na lang yan Isi-circulate siya sa members ng Supreme Court.
Oh.
Well,
Gawa na siya.
hinabol talaga.
You need sense mo, hinabol talaga. On a Friday afternoon pa talaga.
Talaga hinabol
Sige,
na bago
may chismis
mag-SONA.
na tayo simula nung start of the weekend. Sinicirculate siya for the signature.
Dahil pag dumating sa...
Patapos na siya actually. Baka last week patapos yung
Paano pag dumating
yung opponente.
Pag dumating sa Lunes, yung Senado may have to decide whether to dismiss it or not. Paano ang sinasabi ni Senate President Chis Escudero ay the 12th Congress may not accept it. Or may dismiss
They
it.
can ignore
The
it.
20th
Or may
Congress.
dismiss it by a simple majority. No? So, para alam din naman ng Senado na pag dumating sa ganung desisyon, Damn if you do, damn if you don't. No? Pag ganito ang ginawa mo, magagalit yung ganitong sektor.
They lose their political capital.
Yes.
Magkakaalaman na, in short.
Kaya nga, without imputing...
But they have to react to that, Ronald, di ba?
Yeah.
They have to react to that Supreme Court ruling because, sinabi na nga, parang tingin ng iba, it's an infringement on the impeachment role of Congress.
Yes, pero yung
The Senate
Senado...
tries
Pero yung
Supreme Court justices kung may impeach sila eh.
Yeah, pero yung Senado baka masaya.
Because?
Kaya nga, but they have to act on it. We have to know the sentiment of the Senate by Monday. Kung ano yung tingin nila dyan.
So I just got the copy of the Supreme Court decision. Mahaba-haba siya, but let me see if I can extract the salient points. Unanimous.
Yung dulo lang kunin mo.
It's a unanimous decision, first of all. This is the Supreme Court en banc, so it's a unanimous decision that the articles of impeachment are unconstitutional, that it was barred by the one-year rule. So alam natin
Yan,
to.
one year ban. Okay.
The court said it is not absolving Vice President Duterte from any of the charges against her, but any subsequent impeachment complaints may only be filed starting February 6, 2026. Ito na. So,
Nung final ng House.
No. This is if they decide to file another case, it will only be allowed after February 6, 2026.
Yes, nung na-receive ng Senate yung House complaint,
So,
that was last year.
Right.
This year pala, this year.
So, nagbigay na ng date yung Supreme Court.
So masyado na siya malapit sa 2020.
The decision was written by Senior Associate Justice Marvic Leonen. This is the ponente now that we were talking about. So tama nga yung
Ang galing ng mga
chismis.
chismoso rito, yung mga marites.
So the ponente is SAJ Marvic Leonen. Ruled that all legal issues involved with impeachment proceedings are subject to judicial review.
Yes.
The three were filed. The court took note that the HOR in the 19th Congress did not act on the first three endorsed complaints, which were considered terminated or dismissed upon the adjournment of the HOR. So basically, in short, the Supreme Court considered those first three complaints valid. And now they're saying you didn't act on it, they were valid, and therefore this fourth complaint is null and void.
Kaya siya na technical.
Kahit hindi pinagbotohan.
Yun yung argument ng Duterte camp actually.
Yes.
Due process applies to the impeachment process. So, ito na nga, medyo mahaba na to. But those are the important points. It's a unanimous decision by the Supreme Court. The ponente is Marvic Leonen. A new impeachment complaint can only be filed after February 6. And the Supreme Court closes by saying there is a right way to do the right thing at the right time. This is what the rule of just law means. This is what fairness or due process of law means, even for impeachment. And we urge everyone to read the full text of the decision and the concurring opinions. We also now have an official statement from the defense team of Vice President Sara Duterte. Let me just read it out in full. We welcome the Supreme Court's ruling declaring the articles of impeachment against Vice President Sara Duterte unconstitutional for violating the one-year bar under Article 6, Section 3.5 of the 1987 Constitution. The decision of the Honorable Court affirms what we had maintained from the outset, that the fourth impeachment complaint is constitutionally infirm. This unanimous decision has once again upheld the rule of law and reinforced the constitutional limits against abuse of the impeachment process, and we remain prepared to address the allegations at the proper time and before the appropriate forum.
May round 2 pa, kung sakasakali.
Not this. Doesn't look like it's gonna be this year. Yung
No, I mean, well, not this year. Yung round 2,
in the decision that the Supreme Court just issued, it also laid down some requirements. It's a list of 7 requirements. Number 1 is the articles of impeachment must include evidence when shared with House members, especially those who are considering its endorsement. Hindi ba na-share yung evidence?
Yan yung tinatanong sa House.
Yes, but
Yan yung tinatanong sa House.
Yes,
na,
I know.
did you read the articles?
No, but I mean to say, yung finally, the fourth impeachment complaint, when it was signed by the 215 lawmakers, di ba sabi nila it was a stack of more than 100 pages. It was a very thick stack. So presumably, it should have included the evidence, right? So I don't know.
Presumption nga yun of regularity, di ba? Yun ang kini-question dyan sa tanong ng Supreme Court. You're presuming idiocy daw in the House.
Right. And number
Hindi
two,
regularity.
right.
Kanya nga sinasabi ko, it's an indication na papunta sa ganitong desisyon.
The evidence should be sufficient to prove the charges in the articles of impeachment.
Di goes
It
without
should be-
saying yan,
should-
ano?
It goes without saying, of course.
Yeah.
Diba?
Yeah.
The House of Representatives must be given a reasonable time to reach their independent decision. Oh, this is important. Must be given a reasonable time to reach their independent decision of whether they will endorse an impeachment complaint.
What the hell does that mean?
Ronald, parang this comes back to the fact
Diba?
that bigla sila nag-sign lahat that afternoon, right? Parang that's what this is pertaining to, if I read it correctly. They're suggesting...
But even if they do that, you are presuming na merong underhanded something that happened eh.
Yes.
Kung nagkasabay, yun ang sasabihin naman ng congressman eh. Sabay-sabay kami nagdesisyon, ano magagawa nyo?
The presumption here is exactly that they were...
Yeah.
There must have been a political influence over the fact that...
Yeah, but that's none of the business of the...
Saka impeachment is political.
Oh, ganyan talaga.
Yes.
Ganyan yan eh.
Katulad din na hindi pwedeng questionin ng House yung mga desisyon ng
Yes.
Supreme Court.
Well, co-equal nga eh. Co-equal and independent.
Question yung process na yan eh. Oh.
Pero ngayon, baka pwede nilang questionin.
How?
Dahil may precedent yung
but
one-year ban eh.
In
sabi.
what court? Diba?
Hindi, kaya questionin lang nila.
Babalikin sa Supreme Court. Your
Wala,
question...
court of public opinion. Kapag nagkaroon ng gaganyanin din nila yan. At bakit kayo nagkakaganito ng boto? Ganyan na mangyayari dyan. Pagtatanungan sila, presumption of regularity or questioning each other.
Which in a way will weaken our institutions.
Yeah, weak na talaga. Yeah. Ano pa
Weak na nga,
magagawa
lalo
natin?
pang hihina.
Here's another thing that is surprising to me. Number 6 on the list of conditions that the Supreme Court laid down. The basis of any charge must be for impeachable acts or omissions committed in relation to their office and during the current term of the impeachable officer. For the President and Vice President, these acts must be sufficiently grave, amounting to the crimes described in Article 6, Section 2, or a betrayal of public trust given by the majority of the electorate.
Hindi, kini-question dyan kasi, yung ano niya, when she was an education secretary, hindi ka mai-impeach ko education secretary, kaya yung argument ng kabila.
But
You can be impeached only for what you did as OVP. As OVP, because the VP is impeachable, the Secretary of Education is not.
Yes, exactly. But
Yan ang argumento ng kabila.
But for instance, when she did that midnight press conference threatening the president, she was vice president then, right?
Yeah, yun, pwede. Pero meron diyang mga articles na...
Pero akala ko ba hindi sila pumapasok sa merits?
As DepEd.
Oo nga, no?
Sabi nila, hindi sila papasukin ng
Yun
merits.
lang, not a trial of facts. So,
Ba sila pumapasok sa merits?
Oo nga, no? They said they're not judging the merits of the case. So, but this seems to me like they're making an assessment already on the evidence
no
presented.
facts.
Yes.
Right? I don't know.
Although, sasabihin nila, grave abuse nga yan kasi nung impeachment power kasi hindi naman impeachable yung DepEd. Gusto nyo yung DepEd, papunta nyo sa ombudsman yung reklamo nyo sa kanya.
Yes, but again, she's an impeachable
She was
officer as a vice
vice
president. Yes. So when
Yan ang problema dyan.
when she, itong video that we're running, she's already vice president then when she made all those
Hindi, yan.
threats.
Hindi yan as DepEd.
Kaya
Hindi
nga.
yan kasi
Pero-
merong naghalo-halo kasi yung mga dyan eh.
Yes.
Confidential funds as DepEd, confidential funds as OVP. Siguro hihinto mo yung
So dapat
yung mga
kung
kaso, yung cases.
So dapat kung papatay ako, kailangan i-specify ko, ginagawa ko ito as Vice President o as Secretary of DepEd. Para malinaw.
Hindi,
di
yung
ba?
corruption cases yun yung sa corruption cases. Naihiwalay nyo yung DepEd sa kanyang OBP. I mean, I'm just saying yun yung argumento ng kabila na
Yes,
bakit pati
but-
yung sinama,
Right.
ganon. They're saying overall it's infirm because nga may mga ganito.
Nagnakaw kasi ako as
Those are
DepEd
ano na,
Secretary,
those are
not
details
as
now.
Vice President.
Nag-ano ka?
Nagnakaw ako as DepEd Secretary, not as Vice President.
Oh, so as
magkaiba yun. Dapat sa ombudsman mo
Depende
dala.
yun dun sa ginamit mong pondo eh. Pondo yun ng DepEd.
Yes.
Ganon.
But again, there are some of these like yung article number 1 which is
Hindi,
destabilization.
decision yan dapat kasi dun sa trial eh.
Correct.
Ngayon, meron na tayong ganito eh.
Yes, that's our only point, which is
yun yung
there-
beauty ng ginawa ng Supreme Court.
there are points
Hindi
there.
na aabot sa trial, hindi na lalabas yung mga ebidensya na yan.
But there is some judgment on the merits of the case, it feels like.
Oo, sa pagkakabasa mo.
Oh,
Parang kinocontradict
well,
nila yung sarili.
Article 6 kasi is
Ano, ang sabi ng Supreme Court, di sila pumapasok dun sa merits ng articles of impeachment.
But then they lay down requirements for the subsequent impeachment complaint. So I'm not sure what
Because
that is
even
about.
the Supreme Court, kahit tawag sa kanila gods of Padre Faura, they're still people.
Meaning, fallible.
They're not perfect.
They're fallible.
Oh, they're just like you and me.
Oh,
Perhaps.
I'm not learned like that.
Ako hindi learned.
Perhaps
I'm
more-
just trying to
Peanut
understand it.
gallery lang tayo. Peanut
I'm
gallery.
just trying to understand it as a regular citizen. But anyways, we have run out of time today. Thank you so much for joining Storycon on this very eventful day when we had to throw out our whole lineup because of this big breaking news. Thanks for your time. I'm
Meron pa nga tayong hindi na ba't hindi bali na? Yung isa may tumakbo dun sa
Singapore.
Merong scooted out of the country.
At nag-set ng maraming conditions, di ba?
Scooted out of the country.
Parang Supreme Court, daming conditions.
Okay, thanks for your time today. And Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star, Ami Pamintuan, Ronald Diamas, a resident political pundit. I'm Regina Lay. Join us again Monday for an all-day special coverage of President Bongbong Marcos's fourth State of the Nation address. We'll leave you with a preview of that special. Have a safe and dry weekend, everyone. Thanks
So,
for
hindi na,
watching.
hindi na happy weekend. Safe weekend na lang.
May bag-
The state of the nation is sound.
The campaign against illegal drugs continues, but it has taken on a new face. Effective today, all pogos are banned. Dumating na po ang bagong Pilipinas.
What is the state of the nation according to President Bongbong Marcos? Gains, game plan, hits, misses. SONA 2025, a One News special coverage. All-day coverage. Anchored by Ces Orenia Drilon and Regina Lay. Real-time reports on the ground. Anchors at large. Seasoned journalists' points of view. And in-depth analysis.
Mga minamahal kong kababayan,
This is the fourth State of the Nation address. Live coverage and analysis. Monday, July 28, 3 p.m. only on One News. All sides, all the time.